So, welcome to the Country Music social media session. So I'm going to go from my left to right. We've got Ruben Reynolds, we've got Richard, and we've got Dylan, who I met the other day.
Hello.
How are you guys?
All good.
Good. It's nice to see you. Nice to see you kind of virtually anyway. So how's lockdown been for you guys? How have you kind of coped? How have you got on with your music?
Well, it actually to write songs, which, you know, we wouldn't normally get. When we're gigging all the time, you know, the voice is quite often a bit croaky.
Yeah.
So it was a great time to come in the studio and actually, you know, record stuff. We have proper time to record it, which is unusual for us, you know. It's been great to be able to put projects together. And I mean, you know, when we work on Ruben's song, you know, me and Dylan can be here. We'll go and get a Chinese meal first.
Sounds perfect. That's brilliant. So, what's your plans? You've been recording quite a lot at the moment.
Yeah, you know.
We haven't really stopped. With lockdown, it was kind of like a double-edged sword, really, because on one hand, whilst we couldn't go out and play, I mean, I was out all the time, and obviously Rich being in quite a busy band as well, it went to just stopping almost dead, obviously, and so it was a perfect opportunity to sort of put pen to paper and, you know, get some stuff down, you know. So, in fact, it was quite interesting because I ended up spending so much time over here that, you know, doing recording and stuff. I ended up building my own studio as well. So that's quite cool, for sending stems back and forth and working with other guys as well. So it's turned out into quite a blessing, really, I guess, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have said that, actually. It's like when you first heard that we were going into lockdown, everyone panicked, what we're going to do. I think once you've got used to the idea, people thought, well, let's use the time wisely. Let's try and get something out of it. So it's not a complete waste of time when we're sat in. So Ruben, how does this work then with you three? Are you the main songwriter, or are you kind of all kind of clubbing together?
Well, how it all came together really was that I've been writing songs for the last 25, 30 years. And it's mainly been country type stuff because it's three chords and the truth, I don't know any more than three chords, so it had to be.
There's nothing wrong with that. Many a good song was written like that.
Yeah, so it's when you write these songs, you kind of have an idea in your head of what you think you'd like it to sound. But unfortunately, when you start singing it yourself, it doesn't necessarily sound how you'd like it to.
Right.
And you hear country songs stripped back to acoustic form, and you're thinking, yeah, I can see where the soul of that song is, and then how they actually then built, the instrumentation around it, and then you put all the nice lead bits in. So for me, I really wanted to get a song recorded the way that I had it in my head.
Right,
and that's certainly not going to be me singing it. So the starting point for me was really to find the right voice.
Yes.
And of course, with the, you know, in this modern age now with the internet, there's lots of people out there that promoting that they can do singing or play guitar or play steel guitar or whatever. So it's a lot easier now to be able to record. So I found the right kind of voice, a gentleman called Seth Morgan, who's a session player over in the States, and I thought that is the sound that I'm actually looking for. You know, my type of country music I really liked was like Poco, Eagles, you know, Keith Urban, that kind of sound, mid-baritone kind of sound, and the way that kind of West Coast vibe. So that's how I could the type of sound that I was actually looking for. So I got a song that called Living a Lie that I'd actually written back in the noughties, and I'd actually did a version of that with Richard here in the studio. And although we were very happy with how it sounded as we'd done it, it wasn't quite how I envisaged it really, as how I'd like it to sound. So
that's fair enough,
it's always been something that I'd wanted to do. And I had a bit of a health scare in 2019. I was in hospital, and they just wanted to send me down to have a scan. And I spoke to the consultant there, and of course it put the fear of God in you, doesn't it, really, when they say, we want to check things out. And I was thinking about my life and thinking, well, I got to play in a band. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got a great family, and I've got a good job. But I never got around to recording that song the way I wanted to. So as it happened, it was just appendicitis. So that was all done. But it really then planted the seed with me. I thought, I've got to get on and do this. So I embarked on this in autumn 2019. And this did Richard to help me looking at putting the kind of arrangement that I wanted. Obviously, we got the voice. The first guitar solos that we had on Living a Lie was Richard here in the studio. So I thought, well, we've recorded this song. What are we going to do with it? Well, ideally, we guess we put it out to see if we can get some radio play with it. So I sent it out to some stations, and but first, before that, I guess it was a case of, well, what are you going to call it then? You know, you can't go out as Reuben Reynolds because you're not singing it. Well, Richard's played guitar on it, but we can't really. Are we actually a band? No. Well, so we came up with the name of the Atlantic Project because, of course, you've got people working from the US and people working on it from the UK. And it's a project. We're not a band. We're not, we'll go out and play live. So we thought we'd put it down as the Atlantic Project.
It's a great name. It says what it needs to say, doesn't it? Yeah.
It says what what it's all about, really. So I've got it out and played on some radio stations, and Bob Johnson on Smart Radio 101. He really got behind the song and was playing it there for weeks, and he on his Nashville Cats show, and he came back to me and said, "Well, so when's the next song then, Reuben?" "Well, there isn't one." "Oh. Well, you've got to have a follow-up behind that." So I was thinking, well, do I use an old song? And of course, with the lockdown and things like that, picked up a guitar and a song came to me, Dirty Dollars. So again, I worked with Richard on the arrangement, got the vocals recorded, and I pinged it over to Dylan to see whether he'd be interested in playing some guitar on it. And I think
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, actually, I've got to say. I love it. It's a very authentic sort of sounding song.
Yes.
I expect we may even drop you a link for the video to drop into here, a part of that with some lead perhaps on it a bit later. But so that kind of, and I think that sort of started how the process has sort of worked for us, really, is we've got some sort of formula now, not deliberately, but I think Reuben kind of writes the song ultimately.
Yeah.
And then you kind of pass it around and we tweak it, and I might even find like the fourth chord because something you tweak about only three, so there might be four or five. But no, in all seriousness, we just kind of work up some sort of arrangement, and then we get the work done in the States for that, and then it becomes your baby, really, Rich, doesn't it? Then to sort of mix.
Well, we sort of have a listen to the overall sound, and then sometimes obviously we don't all agree. Obviously, sometimes I'm a bass player in a sort of rock and roll band as well as a guitarist, so I find sometimes I love the sound of the bass. So I know that I always like having the bass quite in the mix, if you like.
Yeah.
Sometimes these guys be like, "Ooh, come back a little bit." We all agree in the end, but it's handy because obviously Dylan is a great guitarist and he can do so many different styles. So we've got no problem with any lead guitar. He's the man for us.
Yeah, we tend to come back. So he's got that stage where then kind of like putting.
I'm the bass player, so I can have the bass on and stuff like that.
Strings.
We got strings. Dylan's been learning keyboard. He's getting really quite good at that now. So most of the stuff we can do all in here. Okay, it's only if perhaps we want steel guitar that we go back to the States and get a session guy help us out. But most of the stuff we can actually do in-house here. And we're all over the moon with the sound that we get. That's the important thing. When it comes to fruition, we think that the song is fantastic, and we're all, I play it even when they're not here, I still play it. And I'm like, wow, this is going really well. So we're really chuffed. We're chuffed with what we produce, really.
So it's been a real dream for me, really, that I have been able to tap into these great musicians, and share the same kind of vision. So once we got a couple of songs under our belt, and we started writing some new material for it and got that recorded, I wanted some Hammond organ on it, so I pinged it over to Neil Garland from Hand of Dimes, Cougar fame, which is one of my idols from when I was a teenager. He said, "Yeah, I like the song. Yeah, I can put it in the studio," and bang, he came back with a track on there. So we were able to mix that in. I was keen to see whether we can get more people involved in the UK side of things.
Yeah.
So I've seen YouTube videos of Steve Hicken Jr. playing on the steel. I liked his style, so I sent a couple of songs over to him, and he added some steel for. We've mixed that back in. We've been able to get a couple of girls to be able to do some backing vocals, Callie Adams and Beth Wiltshire here at the local, and they've really enjoyed the whole process of actually getting involved in recording. And of course, a lot of this was done over lockdown, so we're actually thinking for that.
I was going to ask, because obviously with lockdown, it's been, especially there's so many of you writing, in one project, it's very difficult to get people together, isn't it? And it seems to be, successful to be able to do that over that 18 months nearly we've been in lockdown, on and off, and every time we came out of it, oh yeah, a month later, we're back in again, isn't it? So it's like every time you try and get a project together, it's like, oh, here we go again kind of thing.
That's it. And that's one of the beauties of the modern age, really. I mean, it's quite new to me. So, like, Rich uses Logic Pro X, which I know a lot of people use in their studio. Tyler Spicer runs that at NAMM as well, where we do stuff with Stuart Rolfe. So it was quite useful for me to sort of, that's why I went that way with my stuff, so that I could then sort of send stems back and forth.
Yeah.
And you could then work remotely without having to be, you know, in each other's faces all the time, if you know what I mean. And then obviously it's critically important when there's some proper decisions to make about, you know, mixing stuff in and which versions of what you want to do with it. The finer details, obviously you want to get together and have a proper discussion, you know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You know, other than that, we can kind of do stuff fairly remotely, and it works quite well. And also, you know, Ruben's a very modest guy, but he's a fantastic songwriter, and we've kind of, I think I understand the sort of sound he's looking for, but what I tend to do, the beauty working remotely, is I can then maybe put wisdom all across to say, mate, look, I'm not offended if you don't like any of these, or if you particularly like something or not the rest, just, you know, give me a clue, as it were, and we'll run with it, you know. And so it's quite useful from that point of view.
Sort of leave the egos at the door, and it's the beauty of working together, isn't it, to try and come to that compromise. So you find it's quite civilised then, the three of you working together. There's no arguments on.
You know, I mean, we've all been around the block a bit and played in bands for many years, and there've been egos along the way. And I'm delighted to say certainly none of the guys I'm involved with are anything like that, and there's just no need for any of that, is there? You know, we all like to make music, and it's a very incestuous world anyway, being a musician, isn't it?
It is, yes, yeah.
We're constantly borrowing and begging players from other bands or, you know, other genres to work with us, and vice versa. So at the end of the day, that's how you share ideas, and that's how you'll get better at what you do, I think, through understanding what other people do, you know. So
absolutely. And I mean, like going to the festival the other day, I mean, it's always very nice to see other musicians, because obviously as a gigger you don't usually see other people unless it's you, you know. It's just nice to bounce, and I'm always in awe of anyone who gets up, because I've only just learnt guitar really, and to anyone who gets up and plays and does what they do, I'm always in complete awe of, and I think you can just constantly learn off other people.
Well, you do rock that tiny little white guitar of yours, I have to say.
Yeah, my little Fender, yeah. It's a sweet little thing, but it was easy for me to kind of learn on, really. So it's just nice to be able to see other musicians. So that's all right. So moving on then, obviously you've just joined us here at Ruben at Country Music Social Media with Ken, and obviously over the last 18 months, the only way we've been able to get music out really is by social media. Have you used it to your advantage on the social media side?
I think obviously with the first couple of songs that we released, I was doing that myself, you know, sending out to radio stations and setting up a Facebook page, and haven't gone as far as to Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. It was just a case to just get to see, see what kind of interest we can get in it. And certainly it was very encouraging getting some radio play. I wasn't expecting that. So it was nice to get that kind of feedback. The people saying, well, that's a nice 70s country rock kind of sound. I think, well, yeah, that's what we're hoping to achieve.
That's what you want, yeah, great.
That's what we all have in common, you know, and I know it's not going to be for everybody, you know, they might be wanting something that's more modern, but that's the type of sound I was looking for, and it's quite interesting looking at the whole country music industry. You know, you've got the sounds that are coming out of Nashville, and of course then there's other scenes going on where you've got like the outlaw kind of country going on, where you're more like your Waylon Jennings and stuff like that.
Yes.
There's so many acts out there that are just not getting signed. You know, they say, well, it doesn't fit this criteria. Well, they're making music because they love making music, and the art of songwriting and how they do it. And if it's a 5-minute song, it's a 5-minute song. But of course, radio is maybe looking for 3 minutes, you know. So I think in some ways, with the way that the digital age then have been able to get your music out on YouTube and on Spotify and all the other platforms, is a nice way of being able to just test the water to see whether there's any interest in what you're doing.
Exactly, and I say with what I like about country music, especially now, is that you can blend it slightly. You don't have to be the mainstream country. You can do what you like with it, and if it's modern or if it's 60s, 70s style, it doesn't matter. There's room for everything, I believe. And I have my own radio show myself on Radio Downtown, and I play everything from something like Ward Thomas or the Shires down to Waylon Jennings and Charlie Pride and things like that, because I believe that everything deserves airplay, and I don't like to be pigeonholed into things. You know, it's nice to have that sort of genre blend, and you've got the folk kind of country and the rock country, like the Eagles. I mean, I love the Eagles. You know, they're one of my favourite bands. I was brought up on them, so I think it's nice. So be sure to send me your music when it's done, because I'll play it.
Fantastic, yeah. I know we saw at the festival the other day that there's quite an eclectic mix, really, even now, isn't there, between the various bands and solo artists, and how even British country music is taking different avenues and finding its way there. So that's good to see as well. And I think one of the things I've been doing over lockdown is writing an album of my own, actually. And it's a bit of an eclectic mix, because there are a spattering of country songs in there. It wasn't a deliberate thing for me, really. I kind of played all sorts over the years, I guess. And so that I didn't aim to write a country album or a blues album or a pop album or a rock album. And it's just kind of, it's a bit of a mix, to say the least. But the country songs that are in it are quite, at least one or two of them are quite more traditional, sort of Merle Haggard kind of stuff, you know.
Oh, okay.
In fact, that's what I sort of grew up on. That's what my dad used to play a lot. A lot of Flat and Scruggs and the banjos and the jumbo guitars and all that sort of stuff. So
fabulous sound, great sound, yeah.
Yeah, so there's going to be a bit of that in there. So
good things have come out of this, really, because when I approached Dylan with this and said, well, I know you've been playing in bands for years and it's fantastic. Have you done much recording? He said, well, I've always been gigging. So I think getting involved in this definitely inspired you, didn't it, really, to get that studio set up and be able to do that. Well,
that's it. I mean, the last CD I recorded was actually cover songs back in probably it was about the late 90s.
Yeah,
and that was recorded by a guy called Pete Lamb, who locally is very well-renowned recording artist and a friend of all of ours, as it happens, as I was saying, back being in an incestuous world, really. So I was on the sort of British country music circuit for 10 or 12 years with a band called Jesse Taylor and Texas Storm back in the mid-90s through to sort of mid-noughties, I guess. So that was quite full-on, everywhere from sort of Manchester to the Isle of Wight to festivals up in Norfolk or wherever, really. And it was full on, and we hung our hats up, as it were, probably, as I say, in the mid to late noughties. And I didn't think I'd be playing again then. Sort of family life takes over, and the mortgage becomes ever more prevalent, so you take a proper job and all of that. And then your other career sort of takes off. So I was only semi-pro then for sort of 10 years or so. And so after that, it was a case of I miss playing, but I don't really miss playing because of all the travel and the way and all the stuff, all the less glamorous stuff, And so obviously when I got involved with these guys again, it was just like, we've got to do this. We've got to get, I really want to make music proper part of my life again, and the central part of my life. So
you always miss it, don't you? I think when you don't know where you got to, it's gone. Sorry, my cat has decided to join us, so I do apologise. She's sat behind me. I can't do anything without her being involved in it. So, so before we go, just one more question, really, and just where do you see this going? Where do you want to take the Atlantic project? Are you looking, obviously, getting a vocalist, putting it out there, releasing it officially? You're going to do a whole album, EP?
We're just going to throw the mud at the wall and see what sticks. If we get a good positive feedback on it and these guys have got the time and the inclination to want to continue with it, then we will do that.
I think we'll always be recording. When we're old, then we've got nothing else. We're going to sit in a studio with a beer and we'll be recording.
The plan is, I think we've got 4 or 5 songs now.
Yeah.
We're just finishing the 5th one. Ruby's just waiting on me to pull my finger out on one of them. And then we're looking to release the EP in September sort of time.
Okay.
From it, and then we will release the EP then end of September, October time. That's the plan.
And depending on how well that goes, we'll probably end up looking for a UK-based vocalist that can take that sort of sound that we're looking for, and then maybe take it out on the road, which would be awesome. So yeah, we'll wait and see. It's, as I say, we were speaking just before the interview, but it's a funny time really. At the moment.
It is, yeah, it's strange.
Up and down. So at the moment, the thought of auditioning new guys or girls and getting out there and playing, and obviously there's a bit of a vacuum that was formed over lockdown, so everywhere is either sort of already sold out or booked up. So realistically, we're looking at next year anyway before we can get out there and really take it out live. So that would be very much the plan. I think we'd all love to do that. So
sounds amazing. I think 2022 will be a big year for live music. I really think it is. But I'd like to say a massive thank you for joining me. It's lovely, and obviously Dylan, I've met you, and it was lovely to meet you guys virtually, and hopefully we'll meet in the flesh at some point. So get me a couple of videos and we'll play out with a video from you, and thank you very much. Be safe and take care.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy your beer.
Cheers.
Cheers. See ya. Bye.
Plane vapors across the sky, heading in the direction of the big smoke. Wheels turning, people herded off the wire. Daily commute packed so tight it is a joke. 5 stars on a red flag. The silent disease, there's no way back. So desperate to breathe, is it killing you? But the world keeps turning, oil is still pumping, dirty dollars passing hand to hand. We will keep on going till the human cost is counting. This finally stops across the land. Dirty dollars, dirty dollars. It's all we need. Dirty dollars, dirty dollars. Who can stop this greed? There is no way back. So desperate to breathe, is it killing you or me? But the world keeps turning, oil is still pumping, dirty dollars passing hand to hand. We will keep going till the human cost is counting. This finally stops across the land. Dirty dollars, dirty dollars. It's all we need. Dirty dollars, dirty dollars. dollars passing hand to hand. We will keep on going till the human cost is counted. It's finally stopped across the land. $30, $30 is all we need. $30. Who can stop its greed?